Art takes all shapes and sizes. Some of it is quiet and serene, while some is loud and demands our attention. When you look at the work of Charles Jupiter Hamilton, believe me, you have to sit up and pay attention. The different works of art that make up the Jupiter collection almost defy description. The bright colors, the staring eyes, the way some pieces jut out from the wall. His work just doesn't behave itself like most other artwork. A native of North Carolina, Charles makes his home now in Charleston, West Virginia. Even though he's always enjoyed art, Charles didn't have much of a chance to practice it while growing up. Like all too many schools, the closest his came to teaching art was shop class. But after a stint in the Navy, he decided to pursue his interest.
I used the GI Bill and went to the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. And when I got there, all I was interested in doing was taking art courses. I wanted to be an artist. I'd drawn a lot when I was a kid and, copied pictures out of magazines and stuff like that, and wanted to be kind of like a Norman Rockwell type painter, things like that. Things didn't work out, but, but that's another story.
After leaving college, Charles had to make ends meet by painting houses, but it was at that time that he realized the potential of making art with wood.
I bought a router at Kmart, and I took it all apart, so all I had was just a bit sticking down in the motor. And I kind of messing around with wood one day, and I was looking at it, and I said, gosh, I can kind of draw with this thing, right? Yeah, so and I got a bigger board, and I started drawing these kind of faces on them and stuff like that. And so I started doing that, and I started taking off on that. Plus, I've been a carpenter. I'd worked in carpentry all the last 15 years and stuff like that, and I like working with wood.
The more he worked with wood, the more he realized that the tools of the woodworking trade could just as easily be used to create a special kind of art. Charles enjoys the idea of creating a sort of primitive folk art using modern tools. Charles Hamilton's work can be found all over the East Coast, but this is where it all gets started, in his basement workshop. His art tends to take shape in one of two ways. Some of it starts as a flat piece of wood on which he carves out an image using a router, and then he applies paint to the surface. He works mainly with loud primary colors, and that's one of the reasons his work stands out from the crowd. Most of his other work is more three-dimensional in shape. He glues together several boards, which he cuts, drills, and sands until it takes a proper shape.
I make it up as I go along. I have a lot of ideas that just keep going. It's like I kind of got this card catalog that runs and keeps going, and it's just where I stop is where I'll start taking off. Say I get interested in sharks' heads, and I'll start taking off, and I'll do variations like one to stick out of the wall of sharks' heads. I'll cut them out, and I'll paint them, put them in paintings. I'll make these whole elaborate stories up where there's ships sinking and there's sharks in them. Right, and I'll make all this up, and then from sharks, all of a sudden, I'll notice that the sharks are pretty neat, but I want to put a little more color in them, and so somehow I have to do something else, and I'll start making fish, right? And then from fish, you'll go on to there, and then I'll put the fish on a person's face and things like that. So it's just a continuous going along.
There's another part of Charles's work that makes it unusual. Using a drill, he cuts holes in the wood. He adds a little glue, and using a rubber hammer, puts in place a very well-known child's toy. Marbles show up in a lot of pieces in the Jupiter collection, and you might be surprised to know that one of the few places where marbles are still made is in West Virginia. The demand for marbles in the United States has really dropped, and factories like this one in Payton City have almost completely disappeared. When Charles decided to start using marbles in his work, it took him a while to track down a marble factory. And when he finally did, he wanted to make sure his supply would last a while.
The glass was still red hot, and it was really neat. You see these things come out, and they would be red hot on the tray, and then towards the bottom, as they cooled off, the cobalt blue ones, they would be blue, and it's like this great little visual thing talking to him. So anyhow, it was so great that I bought, like $45 worth of marbles from him. I got a lifetime worth of $22,000 or something like that.
Now he's added yet another twist to his works. Playing dice is his latest addition, and you'll notice that the dice are always in combinations of 7 or 11. That way, each work of art becomes a good luck piece. For many artists, the joy of their work is in the finished product, but Charles most enjoys the actual process of working on each piece.
You know, I'm down there by myself, and it's just you're feeling like, you know, you're getting all these things connected, and you know, you don't care what the public feels. You really feel like you're doing something that feels real good to you. You know, and you know it's a positive thing. You know, you're not taken away from. You're not going out there and making guns. You know, you're making something that, you know, at least in this society, people call art.
Every artist wants to create a style, a body of work, that is uniquely his own. That's a goal that Charles Jupiter Hamilton has reached by adopting the techniques of folk art and sprinkling in some modern technology. He's created an original kind of art for the world of today.